When I was 16 years old, in the late 80s, I got pregnant and I had my oldest son. And at 51, I just now feel comfortable enough to really talk about that experience. So this was 1988, 87, 88. I was 16 years old. I was dating someone 4 years older than me. And I know what you might be thinking, what? But back then, he was the same age as my brother. They graduated high school together. I just didn't think much about it. And so I was dating him. We had broken up, and that's when I found out I was pregnant. We got back together, and that was short-lived. But what was my experience like being pregnant at 16 years old in the 80s? Well, I lived in a small town in Arkansas, smack dab in the middle of the Bible Belt. I was raised by Christian parents. My parents owned a business in town, and it was greatly frowned upon. I was, in my mind, shunned by so many because I suddenly found myself with child. My mother told me that she was embarrassed to walk down the street with me. Some of my very favorite teachers, because I was a very good student. I was in lots of extracurricular activities. I was a cheerleader. I was in homecoming. A lot of parents trusted their children being around me. But then I found myself pregnant. And suddenly these parents did not trust their children to hang out with me anymore. Many boys in my class and above were told that they could no longer date me. Because I had a child. I was told that I was not good enough. Lots and lots and lots and lots of shame came with that, which I carried for most of my life. I was in 11th grade when I had him. I did go on to finish high school with honors, got a scholarship to college. Before I left for college, I was told, now you make sure you tell boys what you are before you go on a date with them. Like, they need to be informed that you're damaged goods, was basically what they were saying. And so for most of my life, I considered myself damaged goods. I considered myself not worthy and below everyone else. And so I spent the majority of my life trying to prove that I was not that stereotypical teenage pregnancy, that I was worthy, and I would start at a job and then I would work my way all the way to the very top. And I would just be the highest and the best in every single thing that I did. Yet I never found my worth there. I would make it to the top, and yet still it wasn't there. And still I would feel insecure and unworthy. It wasn't until I met and married my husband, who's absolutely amazing, and we celebrate 13 years this year. And once I was telling him a story, and I said something about, well, you know what I am, meaning that I got pregnant out of wedlock. And he said, hey, you don't have to say that anymore. That's not who you are. And you don't have to say that anymore. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I realized that that's not who I am. And I don't have to say that anymore. And that moment, and I can still be in that moment in 1 second, was very life-changing for me. And I really started working on my self-worth and stopped beating myself up for something that I did that is actually natural. It's a natural thing to do, to be a mother. Maybe not that young, but my grandmother was married and had children at 14, so I don't know. But I started letting go of all of that and all of that shame, because who were they to shame me? Like, for real. And now I feel healed from it, and it's a lot better on this side. I shared this story so if you're dealing with something that you did as a teenager that you're still carrying around a lot of shame and guilt for, man, it's time to let that go. Start the process of healing from that, because you do have worth. You do have value. That doesn't define you. It didn't define me. And by the way, that son that I had at 16 years old gave me 2 beautiful grandchildren. He is a prominent member of society, successful entrepreneur, volunteer fireman. He has the biggest heart, and he blesses so many people's lives. So he came when he was ready to come. And although it wasn't ideal for me to be 16 years old when I had him, I'm so thankful that I did have him. And he is a blessing to so many besides just me.